Hey guys, this is Amanda from AB Adventures, and we are doing something a little bit different today on the channel. We've never done anything like this before, but I don't know if you've seen it all, but right before all the parks closed, Disneyland released a new parade called Magic Happens, and at the very end of it, I saw a costume that inspired me to go and look into all of the different costumes that have ever been done for this character, and it's Sleeping Beauty. So if you have been avoiding anything for the Magic Happens parade, don't worry, we'll have spoiler alerts on any time that we show any videos from that, so don't worry about that. You can watch the whole rest of this video and find out all the info for it. We'll be digging into the history of this costume, both live action, Disney on Ice, and within the parks. So stick around for this because it's going to be really, really interesting. Welcome back, guys. So we are going to start off this whole look at the costume by, of course, looking at the movie because that is the best place to start for this. So if you've seen the movie at all, which I bet you have, if you've seen it, you know that there's this very, I guess, famous argument between the two fairies on whether the dress should be pink or blue, and that goes on throughout the whole movie. But the interesting thing that I noticed, and I don't know if you'll notice this either, when you think of the dress, just stop for a second, and when you think of the dress, what color do you think it is? Is it pink or is it blue? What I find really, really interesting is I would have said it was pink, but when you watch the movie, a majority of the movie is actually blue. So if it's blue in the movie, where do we get this idea that it's pink all the time? And I think that this comes from the Disney parks and Disney merchandise wanting to differentiate her from the rest of the princesses, which have a lot of blue costumes. So they gave her pink to kind of set her apart. This is just my speculation. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it does make sense. And we know that she landed on pink. There's just a lot of pink. But anyway, this is what the costume looks like in the movie, and this is the basis that we're going to be looking at for the remainder of this video. First of the live action ones that we're going to look at is ABC's Once Upon a Time, and there are quite a few costumes in this one, but the first Aurora costume that we're going to look at is this really pretty blue one. It's super see-through, like on the sleeves. It's got really unique material, and I find this really interesting. A lot of these live action films, instead of, like, they do a lot of blue and a lot of pink, but then they also do purple too. So as you're looking at this, there's this really pretty blue. It's light, airy, there's that really pretty silver belt over it, but then this next one is where they chose that purple to kind of mesh the pink and the blue together, and it's right when Prince Philip is waking her up, and you can see all the details on it. I mean, it's just so pretty, and again, a lot of live action, they choose this purple to kind of marry the two together, and it's just really, really pretty. So anyway, that's that costume from ABC's Once Upon a Time. Alright, next up is the costume from Maleficent, and this one is really interesting because they really stuck to the times that this story is set in, and so the costume is really medieval looking, like traditional medieval looking. There's not all the floweriness from the Once Upon a Time one. If you look really close, like, there's really nice gold detailing in it, but everything looks really simple. Like, it's not over the top, there's not a lot of extra stuff in it. Then in Maleficent 2, she has this really, really neat floral, like, it looks a little bit more royal, a little bit more regal, which is obviously what they're trying to do in this part of the movie, but it's just absolutely gorgeous, and you can tell it's really got that woodsy look to it. So I really like that one. Very, very unique and cool. Then later, when she goes to her mother and father-in-law's palace, you see this pink dress, and this is one of the first times that they use pink in this movie for her dress. Again, it's still that very traditional, medieval-looking kind of dress, very true to the time, sticking with the theme of the movie. Onto the wedding dress, and you couldn't not have the scene with the changing of the colors, and they had to do it, and so they did. But what's interesting is they kind of change it up a little, where the two fairies this time are fighting between green and pink, and back to green and back to pink, and they switch back and forth for a little while, and then they finally just land on blue. And of course you've got to have that scene in there, and they do it really, really well. Next up, we've got Wreck-It Ralph 2, and I know a lot of people were super excited for this whole scene in this movie with all the different princesses, and it's just a really, really cool scene, but Sleeping Beauty does make an appearance in this, as you can see right here, and she's got the traditional costume. Again, it's pink, when in the movie it was blue, but here we are with the pink. And there's the solid gold crown, the solid gold necklace there as well. So again, it's very traditional with pointed sleeves, all of that, and this is the typical look that we see. Then we move over to the slumber party scene, and in here she's wearing a different thing with a really cute Nap Queen lettering on it. I don't know, yoga pants, whatever people would wear to a slumber party, but there you have it. Now we move on to Disney on Ice. And if some of you don't know what Disney on Ice is, it is a touring show on ice. I know I am so clever with that. But anyway, it was a touring show where they did a lot of different Disney segments. And this one in particular is a little bit older. And what's really cool is they have a blue dress in it, and like we said before, this is very rare when you find a blue dress, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. It has this really pretty off-the-shoulder sleeves, and I just like it because it's rare. Like, it's very, very rare to find a blue dress that Sleeping Beauty wears. And then we move on to a show called Dream Big, and this had its own specific segment in the show that was pretty long. They had a Maleficent part in it, and the part where Prince Philip wakes her up from her sleep, and it's this really pretty pink dress that's really light and flowy. I really like it. One of my favorite sections, though, is the Dare to Dream show. And as the finale, they had all of the characters come out in these kind of celebratory royal dresses. They had Snow White and Belle. The dresses were white and gold and super showy and just really, really elaborate and pretty. And so obviously Prince Philip and Aurora came out, and it's just so different. Like, you don't usually see this, so it's cool. So there you have it. That is everything that we could possibly cover outside of the park. So now we move to the actual parks, and we're going to share a little bit of what the actual traditional dress is for the parks, but I want to debunk a myth first. There was a video going around for Tokyo Disney, and somebody edited this dress that made it look like it was an actual changing dress happening right before your eyes. It's not. It's a total fake. It's not a real changing costume. So I just wanted to debunk that before we get into the rest of the video. All right, like I said, we're going to cover a little bit of what the traditional dress looks like. And as you can see here, typically there's these really pointed sleeves and kind of a white panel going down the skirt, like there's pink and white together. There's the solid gold crown, the solid gold necklace. That's the basic structure of the Sleeping Beauty costume. And remember, we said before, in the parks and merchandising, you see a lot more pink. And Aurora herself says that she wears pink around her friends and blue around Prince Philip. But as you can see in this clip here, she is most definitely not wearing blue around Prince Philip. It's definitely pink. And either she's making stuff up or they just had a really big fight this morning. Regardless, though, we can all agree that this is the basic costume that is seen at the parks that everybody is familiar with. So let's go ahead and get into some of the first ones. Alrighty, the first one up is 1986 Sleeping Beauty's Parade, and she's riding a real horse. I just have to say that first. Like, that's kind of crazy to me. But then second, it's blue, and you actually don't see this a lot anymore, like I said before, but in the 80s, they did a lot of blue costumes, and this is one of them. Then the next one that we have is 1987, Snow White's 50th anniversary, and it's a little bit more bright, reflective. There's like, it's a shimmery fabric compared to the other one, but still that blue. So I think that that's really cool. But the next one that we've got up, we start phasing out the blue, and this turns into lavender for the 1991 Christmas Character Parade in Walt Disney World. And again, it's light lavender. It's super bedazzled. I mean, look at those sleeves and the pointed, like, shoulder piece. It's so pointed. But it is really pretty. If you zoom in here, you can see how bedazzled it is. You can also see the crown. It's not that solid gold. It's got a lot of jewels in it, kind of hollow. So anyway, super different and kind of taking a step back from what they usually did to this kind of different color. And the next one that we've got up is for the 2005 Parade of Dreams in Disneyland, California. And if you look at it, it's super purple, almost blue, but the skirt is really interesting to me. So it's got those different colored panels in it, which before we've seen like it's all blue or just like a solid color. And this is really interesting that they incorporated different colors for this one. I mean, you can see it a little bit better in this clip, a little bit closer up, and you can see just how much fabric is there and all the different colors. I think it's really cool, the creativity that they had for this one, doing something out of the box. Then the next one that we've got is the Cinderellabration in 2005 in Tokyo Disneyland, and it's this kind of blue, kind of purple, but really thick velvety fabric. There's a cape in the back, which is really neat. And then the shoulders, like there's no point to them like the other ones that you've seen. It's really like bejeweled, very interesting. And also, I love this crown. Like, I don't really like the solid gold crown, but it's this really pretty circlet on her head. And then I guess here you can see it's a little bit more purple rather than the dark blue, but still, it's a light, different color. All right, guys, 2 years later, in 2007, we've got another Cinderellabration, but this is the Cinderellabration Romance of Lights. So a little bit different, and it was celebrating the wedding and coronation of Cinderella. So a very different kind of show, but all the princes and princesses came out to see her, and here is Sleeping Beauty, and look at how like bedazzled and jeweled it is. I mean, you can kind of see it in his costume too, in the black in the front, but her crown is that silver one that's super tall, goes all the way around in a circlet, and look at the skirt, look at that. If you couldn't tell, I like what they did here. And now we move on to Disneyland Paris with the Once Upon a Dream Parade from 2007 to 2012. And we'll return to this one later, but for now, this one ran for quite a few years, and they had this whole float dedicated just to the princes and princesses. But you can see here, there's this really dark dress, like very, very different from anything else. It's got gold detailing on it, really pointed sleeves, back to the solid gold crown and the solid necklace. You can see it a little bit closer here. I didn't really find like good footage from this, but you can see it a little bit better in this one, that it's just so stiff. I mean, I keep looking at it and I think it's just really stiff, but really, really pointed shoulders, nice detailing. There's another little part right here where you can see it a little bit better. But am I right? Like, this is the first time that we've seen anything like this, and it's so different. Really interesting. Okay, now we are hopping back over to Tokyo Disneyland for the 2008 Jubilation Parade. So this is the 25th anniversary in Tokyo. They had some really cool different floats, but the dress here is kind of normal, except for look at the sleeve caps again, like on the shoulders. It's like almost metal and very sparkly. I've never seen anything like that. Now, Tokyo Disneyland also did another show called One Man's Dream, and there was a sequence where Prince Philip wakes her up, and you can just see this, like, there's silver instead of gold. It's really light lavender, really light pink. There's different layers of fabric. Like, this is different than anything that I've seen, and I absolutely love it. I think it's just so cool. I mean, the crown is different, the details, it's just, yeah, it's amazing. We hop back to where I call home in Walt Disney World for the Dream Along with Mickey Castle Show, and this is basically the traditional dress, but it's so deep. Like, the pink colors are so deep. We again have those like pointed sleeves, but they made this specifically for this time in the parks. And so funny, but my husband took one look at this and said, somebody didn't put enough water into Kool-Aid there. I mean, it's just so dark, but you can see another angle here. It's very sparkly. There's just a lot of just different textures to it that you don't normally see, but it is pretty much the traditional dress that most people would see in the parks. They've just brought it back with an upgrade, of course, because it's Disney. But in this video, you can see some of the different shades of the colors and everything. It's just so detailed and really pretty. Now we have landed in 2011 for Mickey's Soundsational Parade, and they had this really pretty float that they called the Tangled Float, but they had Snow White and Sleeping Beauty on there as well. Sleeping Beauty's obviously sitting, and you can see it's this really light pink, but the bottom skirt is lighter than the rest. Usually that's flipped and the top is lighter than the skirt. Anyway, it's got all these layers to it, and in this clip, you can really see how shimmery it is. Like, almost looks like that, I don't know, typical, like, mermaid. I don't even know what that's called, but, like, the mermaid look where it's got all those greens and colors in it. Maybe I'm making stuff up and being super confusing. But in this clip, this was for the Christmas overlay, and they had her standing at the back of the float, and you can just kind of see that dress a little bit better. Traditional, but lighter. Okay, so we are returning to one of the parades that we did before. Remember the Once Upon a Dream parade in Disneyland Paris? They completely overhauled that and turned it into a new parade. So in some cases for this parade, they completely switched the floats around. In some other cases, they kind of kept it the same. But it was in 2012. It was called Magic on Parade, again in Disneyland Paris. And you can see it's pretty much the same dress, but it was kind of around winter for parts of it, so they had these gloves on. Some of the characters sitting in these carriages like you see here, but in this video you can see this dress a whole lot better than you could in the other ones. Really dark, really nice details. I like it. Okay, I feel like this is where I can say that we get into the really juicy, interesting stuff of this. So if you guys know, almost every resort around the world has a castle, and for Disneyland Paris, Disneyland has a Sleeping Beauty castle, so they obviously do a lot here for Sleeping Beauty, maybe a little bit more than some of the other parks. So this brings us to, in 2017, they had the 25th anniversary of Disneyland Paris, and it was this massive, elaborate show that they did to celebrate the 25th anniversary. And part of that show brought out a ton of really unique characters. You got to see a lot of people that you wouldn't normally see. But then another part was they had this processional where Sleeping Beauty came out to welcome all of the guests and thank them. And so you get to see her costume here, and it is so different, guys. I mean, look at the dark red. It's got this dark red cape in the back. It's very pointed. And then as soon as we get a second here, it's going to zoom back up in, and you'll be able to see the pointed shoulders. I mean, look at, like, I don't know what, is that metal? I don't know. But, and then her crown is bejeweled. There's all kinds of colors in there, purple and blue. I mean, this is the most different. Like, we can't top this. I don't think we can top this. It's very different. I'm not sure if I love it or hate it, but we can all agree it is very, very different. So this was for the 25th anniversary, and then like I said, this was something that just kind of set Disneyland Paris apart, is they gave a lot to Sleeping Beauty. So the next one that we have is the 2017 Starlit Princess Waltz. So this is the same year as the 25th anniversary. They're still celebrating that, and so they have this show with all the princesses, and they bring out Sleeping Beauty toward the beginning of the show to welcome all of the guests again. They're very much treating it like she's the star of the show. But, I mean, it's her castle, so you can. But still, look at this dress. I mean, it's so, floofy is the word that comes to mind. But it's very big around the skirt for her typical dress. There's a lot of really pretty detailings in it. Remember we said before there was one dress where it had the dark on top and light on bottom. This is the typical where it's light on top and dark on the bottom. So there you go. Really nice design in it, and just really flowing. So I think that this is really cool, and it definitely does fit like a waltz kind of show. And right here you can see how soft her shoulders have gotten, how light the sleeves are, very different from the stiff structured from before. 2 years later, that show in 2019 turned into a winter version of it called the Royal Sparkling Winter Waltz, still in Disneyland Paris. And they have these, like, it does look definitely more winter, like it's a little bit more cozy. There's a lot more capes and thicker fabric, and just a lot more elaborate too. So at this point, they actually bring out Sleeping Beauty a little bit later in the show, and you can see we haven't seen anything like this, right? Like the ombre colors coming up, the different panels with the different shades of pink in it. She's got gloves. She's almost got like this turtleneck piece coming up too. And look at the necklace. Like, it's not the solid gold. There's a silver crown instead. Like, way different than anything else. The creativity has just, they have done something completely different that they've never done before, and I love it. And you can see just a little bit closer up here, like the feathering around the neck. Like, I don't even know if that's what it's called, but it's different and cool, and I like it. And you can tell I like it because I keep showing you clips from it. But you can just see like how different this is, and I want to give it credit because it's so unique. You're not going to find anything like this anywhere else. Next show is a ticketed event that they did that it was in 2019 called the Festival of Pirates and Princesses, and you could only go for a certain amount of time. It was from January to March, and you could choose sides. It kind of had like this video game feel, like it was interesting, like very, very different, and you could choose sides between pirates or princesses, and you would follow them around the parks. And so they did these really different costumes to kind of showcase that for guests, and you can see like a lot of the princesses had these capes on them. They would bring them on floats into the park and then do a show in front of the castle. Then they would do one on a stage. So this is a part that's done on the float, and you can see it's pretty much the same one as the winter waltz dress, but she's got this cape and the turtleneck part is gone. So this is the part when they would do the stage show, and they would go out and you could choose your side and you could follow these princesses around. So very different kind of show, and also really cool costume. Okay, and that wraps up our time in Disneyland Paris. We stayed here a long time because, like I said, there's a lot there. But we're going to hop over to Walt Disney World, where you can see this really rare winter dress with the fur cowl around it. Like, I don't see this. I've never seen it since, but it's got this really pretty design on the dress, and then the fur is what sets it apart that you probably won't see. I want to see if you've ever seen this before because it's so different. One kind of looks like they took off a jacket to have this one. Like the winter jacket came off, and then now this is the traditional meet and greet dress that you'll find in the parks. It's got these really soft shoulders, the really nice design going all the way down. It's so pretty, but it's not so pointed like the ones before. Plus the crown isn't so solid, like it's got some jewels in it. The same thing for the necklace. There's a jewel there too, so it just adds that variety to it. But I just love the detailing on the dress. Like, so different. You can see it really well here, and especially the softer shoulders. Like, it was just, the one from before was too stiff for me, in my opinion. It's much lighter pink. Like, it just looks softer and more princessy to me. And you can see here, like, it's just so different from what they used to have with the white panel going down, the dark pink, the pointed shoulders, just very, very different. So that's the traditional one that you'll see. It's the meet and greet costume in the parks. Now we're going to move to a ticketed event that just happened in 2020 before the parks closed, and it was called the Sweetheart Night for Valentine's Day. And this specific event, I just love the premise behind it. It was that a ball was being thrown and you could come attend and dance with the guests who were the princes and princesses. So obviously Aurora and Prince Philip were there. You can see Snow White and Prince Charming in the background, Aladdin and Jasmine. So really cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to dance with the princes and princesses? I mean, so they mixed and mingled with people, and you could dance with Cinderella and Prince Charming, other Prince Charming. But you could also dance with Prince Philip and Aurora, and I have a lot of videos from it, and it's just so different. But the dress itself is so light. We've got those pointed shoulders again. The crown is so, I mean, look at the jewels and how spectacular it is. So cool. I don't know if they made this just for this event or not, but I'm here for, I mean, look at the jewel. You can see sparkling in it. Can this one just stick around for forever? And now this is where the spoilers begin and the culmination of this whole video. So you may want to skip to the end of it, but we're going to dig right into Magic Happens that just opened in Disneyland, California. And they had absolutely gorgeous costumes the whole way through. Such elaborate, different colors. I mean, really bright colors all over the place. But they had this float at the very end for Sleeping Beauty, and I was just struck. I mean, look at it. It's gorgeous. The colors, the fight between the pink and blue, which we haven't seen. We looked at all of them, and we didn't see that as much. There was a little bit every once in a while, but not so stark as this, that it's just obvious that that's what they're trying to do, is the pink and blue from the fairies. And I love it. I think that it's just incredible, and I'm just so proud of the creator who made this and designed it. I mean, oh, it's gorgeous. Look at that. Wow. This to me is by far the best costume that they've ever done for Sleeping Beauty, and we looked at all of them. Starting from the movie and what is the traditional costume, and going all the way through from, you know, the Maleficent movie to Once Upon a Time, and, you know, just these different shows that they've done, and everything has just been so different, and I love it. I love the creativity of the history of it. But again, I can't let this one go. It's my favorite. So tell me in the comments below what your favorite costume was. If you've seen any other ones, I would love to know. And thank you so much. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like this video for more like it, and I'll see you on the flip flop.